Hi, Skylar.
Hi,
How are you doing tonight?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good. When are you taking your ACT?
Tomorrow.
That's what I thought. Okay. So, we have a half an hour.
Yes.
I looked at the next 4 questions and they're really good questions. However, I also think we should look for geometry problems and trig problems.
I agree.
All right. So let's do these first 3 questions. And then I will just advance until we find a geometry or a trig problem, and we'll go for a half an hour.
Okay.
Okay, we did 17,
Uh-huh.
so let's look at 18.
Okay.
And do you have a calculator in front of you that's the same that you're going to use tomorrow?
Yes, I believe so. I'm not 100% sure that it's like allowed, but I'm 99% sure that it is.
Okay, make sure it's charged fully or has
Okay.
batteries. I mean, the last thing in the world you'd want to happen is have the batteries die on you.
Right.
So from the first 2 sentences, what can you figure out?
Um,
Really
I'm
easily.
sure you can figure out what the cost of popcorn is.
Right. What is the cost of a box of popcorn? That's not what they're asking, but that's what you have to figure out first, is the price of a box of popcorn.
Right.
Do you have pencil and paper in front of you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just trying to, like, do it.
Okay. What's it going to be? What number minus what other number?
Um, mm,
In other words, what's the only difference between sentence number 1 and sentence number 2?
there's one more.
Okay, so subtract the 2 prices. That's got to be the price of a box of popcorn.
Okay.
What do you get?
325.
Okay, now that you know the price of a box of popcorn, and 1 box of that and 1 drink costs $5.10, so what's the drink cost? The subtraction.
180.
Tell me what you're going to subtract from what?
You would subtract 325 from 510.
What do you get?
185.
That's the answer.
Okay.
Number 19.
You were sitting in life. Oh my god, registered to pay for 2 lamps. Priced at 8.
So they make this problem kind of complicated. There's a lot of stuff in that paragraph.
Uh-huh.
Well, the very first thing you have to do is what?
Um, One second. You have to add the sales tax.
Okay, so what's the cost? In other words, that's what I was trying to get, is you have to figure out what the cost is.
Um,
How are you
the
adding,
cost is actually like
the sales tax? Tell me how you're doing it, because there's 2 ways to do it. One's more efficient than the other.
well, I multiply by the .07 and then add what I get.
Okay, How
I know
about
you.
just do 1.07 in the first place?
Okay.
That's the same thing. In other words,
Okay.
if you multiply by 1.07, that's the same as multiplying by 0.07 and adding, which is 2 steps. This is 1.
Okay.
Okay? Whenever you're adding, like with tax, you can do it this way. Whenever you're subtracting, let's say that they're offering a 20% discount, well, you can take the 0.2 and multiply it and subtract, but you can also just multiply it by 0.8. So it works both ways. Whether they're adding extra or subtracting from, it's more efficient to do it this way.
Okay.
So what's the total cost? What is 2 times 8.99? All of that times 1.07.
It's like 1923.
Okay. Now, the rest of the question is a little different. It doesn't say you have $20. It says you have $21 bills. So how much will you need in coins if you want to pay the exact amount?
Um, I guess 24.
Yes. In other words, you must have had some round-off error with that 23.
Yeah, it was like 0.238.
Really? Okay. Oh, 238. Okay, that definitely rounds to 19.24.
Yeah.
Okay. So the beauty is that they didn't have 22 on there. In other words, had they had 22 and 24, you would have really had a problem because of the round-off error. So make sure you round off in these situations.
Okay.
Number 20.
Um, okay. If is that r squared?
R cubed.
Okay.
Blow it up a little bit here.
I think it. Well, would you use your calculator in this one?
Definitely.
Okay, then I got 21.
Oh, good. How'd you find R?
Um,
You on your calculator to find R.
I I have like a special button on mine.
For a cube root?
Yeah.
Okay, so you got 7?
Yeah.
Okay. You could also do it the following way. You could take 343 to the 1/3 power. That's the same as the cube root.
Okay.
Okay? Now, you might not be able to use that special button you have in the test.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not sure. What part
Oh
of your calculator are you going to be able to use? I know you're not going to be able to use the part that factors if you have that ability on your calculator. But know that the cube root is the same as raising it to the power of 1/3. In other
yeah.
words,
Okay.
if they'd have said r to the 4th equals some number, well, you don't have a button on your calculator that lets you do the 4th root. So you would almost have to take that to the 1/4 power to solve it.
Okay.
Okay? And once you solve for r, then 3r is very easy. It's 21.
Right. Okay.
Order those three numbers from least to greatest.
Okay.
And tell me how you're doing it. What's pi equal to?
Like 3.14.
What's 7/3 equal to?
Like 2.3.
And what's 9/2 equal to?
4.5.
Good. And that's the thing to do, is to put them in all decimal. Once you put them
Okay.
in all decimal, it's easy.
Right.
In other words, it's 7/3 pi and 9/2.
Okay.
All right. Let's look for some trig and geometry. And the only reason geometry is key is because it's been a few years since you had geometry.
Right.
That's always the case when somebody is a senior or taking, if you took pre-calc last year, it's been 3 years since you took geometry. So you might be a little rusty on your geometry.
Yes, that is for sure.
I see some tough problems here, or not tough, but good. But the thing is, we don't have that much time. So let me do some searching here.
Okay.
You know how to find slope between 2 points?
Yeah, rise over run. Or like it's like you do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1.
So it'd be -7 minus 4 divided by 2 minus 5.
Okay.
Don't think it's worth going over the prime factor question. That's a hard question, but it's not geometry or trig. You good with double exponentiation? You know what the answer to this is?
Um, Maybe a little bit of review on that wouldn't hurt.
What's the item on the left equal to?
Um,
I call it double exponentiation because x is being raised to 3a plus 5, and then that
uh-huh.
whole quantity is being again exponentiated to the power of 4. So how do you handle it when you got two exponents like that?
Do you multiply each one by 4?
Yes. Well, yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So it becomes x to the 12a plus 20,
Okay.
and then you can, excuse me, and then you can say, once you've got x to the 12a plus 20, applying the rules of exponents, and if that's equal to x to the 44, then that has to be equal to that. And then you just solve that for a. And that's algebra 1 stuff there. Okay?
Okay.
Logs, I see this on the practice tests, but not a lot. All right, let's keep going. Almost shocked to see how little geometry I'm finding. All right, here we got some geometry. And trig. There are exactly 4 trig questions on the test.
Uh-huh.
Since you took trig last year, right?
Yes. I
These,
don't know how much I remember, but yes.
these are all very, very basic trig questions. They're not hard trig questions. There are also 2 conic section questions on the test.
Okay.
And they're also easy. So if you can remember your basics of circles and ellipses and trig, that's 6 questions you're going to get right.
Okay.
Okay? So let's look at 29. What's the radius of that circle?
Oh, um,
Here, let me give you the formula, the general formula for a circle. R is the radius. What's the radius of that circle?
14.
No?
Or 7. Um,
14 is R squared.
yeah.
So what's R? On your
The
piece of
square
paper.
root of 14?
Yeah, exactly. On your piece of paper, whenever you get a problem like this, it probably is going to work better for you if you actually write R squared equals 14 and then solve for R. And you solve for R by taking the square root of both sides.
Okay.
Right? But the key there is to know the general formula. And you should definitely memorize the general formula for a circle. Because
Okay.
they're going to give you two conic questions. One of them will probably be a circle. The other will be an ellipse.
Okay.
Okay, so you want to know both general formulas as long as we're talking about it. Let me write the general formula for an ellipse. It's not that different than a circle. In other words, that was the general formula for a circle equals R squared. Well, for an ellipse, you got that divided by a squared, that divided by b squared, and the whole thing's equal to 1. And the kind of question they might ask you, it'll be in this format. And they maybe ask you what a and b are. In other words, maybe they'll give you this formula here. What's a and what's b?
And they want me to find B?
No, just a and b.
Oh, okay. So, A would be 2 and B would be 5.
Correct. Is that barking on your end or my end?
Yeah, it's my dog. I'm sorry.
No problem. I got two of them in the house, so. All right, here's a trig question. What's the cosine of angle A?
Cosine is of angle A. 5 over 12.
Nope, that's the tangent.
Oh.
SOHCAHTOA. If there's anything you want to know, there's anything you want to memorize, it's this. In other words, you have to know the definition of these three main trig functions. You need to know what sine means, what cosine means, and what tangent means. Additionally, there are some triangles that you want to recognize because there's two that they're going to use repeatedly. One is a 3, 4, 5 right triangle.
Uh-huh.
And the other is a 5, 12, 13. These are actually the two smallest right triangles that have whole integers. In other words, there is no such thing as a 2, 3, 4. This is smallest, this is the next smallest, and you see a ton of them on the test.
Okay.
So you can save yourself a lot of arithmetic by recognizing it. What's the hypotenuse of this triangle?
A 13.
What's the cosine of A?
12 over 13.
That's right. H. Exactly. Do you know how to handle these problems where, let me ask you real quickly, what's x squared times x cubed?
You add the exponents.
What's x cubed divided by x squared?
You subtract them.
Give me the answer.
Oh, it would just be x.
And what's x squared raised to the 4 power?
That would be x to the 8th.
And that's all you're going to do in this problem.
Okay.
In other words, the way you handle these problems is you start with a number. You take 13 times minus 8, divide it by 4, come up with whatever you get. And then you go to the next letter, the a. And boy, you got an a squared there, an a cubed there, and an a squared there. So you simplify it all down to a single a. And then do the same thing with the b. And whatever answer you get will be one of these 5 answers.
Okay.
But the key is knowing these 3 rules over here.
Okay.
Do you know what a right isosceles triangle is?
Kind of.
What's an isosceles triangle?
An isosceles triangle, I believe it has 2 sides that are the same.
Very good. In other words, that's a right isosceles triangle, with that being the same as that. Okay? Doesn't necessarily have to be the same as the base, but it's got 2 equal sides. That's basically it.
Okay.
So let's look at this problem. What's the answer? Whether it's right or not, a right isosceles triangle is actually where the top angle is a right angle. In other words, that's a right angle, and that's the side, and that's the side that are equal. But you don't even need that for this. Of the 5 answers, which is the only one that has 2 equal sides?
Okay.
Correct. Also G, but when all 3 sides are equal, it's an equilateral triangle, and every angle is 60 degrees. So there's no way that has a 90-degree angle in it. And of the other answers, K is the only one that has 2 sides that are the same. In other words, you don't have to do the math. You just have to look for an answer that has 2 sides that are the same. So you definitely need to know the definition of an isosceles triangle.
Okay.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. When you're looking for the y-intercept, what is the value of x?
0.
When you're looking for the x-intercept, what is the value of y?
0.
This problem is really interesting, but we only have 6 minutes and it's not that interesting.
Okay.
I'm trying to be as efficient as I possibly can here.
No, I appreciate it.
Okay. I'm looking for trig or geometry problems. Also 38, what's the slope of any line perpendicular to the y-axis?
Perpendicular to the y?
Let me draw it. And this is a good thing to do. If you have problems with this, draw something. There's the xy plane. Perpendicular to the y-axis would be a line like that, right? What's the slope of that red line?
0.
That's it.
Okay.
In other words, the slope of horizontal lines is 0. What's the slope of a vertical line?
1.
Nope. Undefined.
Oh. Okay.
It's actually infinity, but they say undefined.
Okay.
All right, here's another trig question. So they want to know the tangent of A times the cosine of B. So what's the tangent of A? SOHCAHTOA. You don't want to memorize SOHCAHTOA. You want to know it like you know your name.
4/5.
No?
Oh my gosh.
Tangent is T
Oh, 4/3.
That's opposite over adjacent. Yes, 4/3. What is cosine of B?
SOHCAHTOA.
Cos.
That's adjacent over hypotenuse.
Okay.
So that would be 4/5, I think. I can't see the 5. I think that's a 5. 4/5.
Uh-huh. What is the product of those two numbers?
So 4/3 times 4/5.
Uh-huh. That's what they're at. In other words, that's what it says. The tangent of A times the cosine of B. That's what that means.
When you multiply fractions, do you just multiply straight across?
Yes. Multiply numerators, multiply denominators.
So 16/15.
Correct. Multiplication of fractions is easy. What's hard is when you add fractions. If I got
Okay,
to
and
add
when you
those,
add them,
that's
that's
a
when you
lot
have to
harder.
do
What's that?
these denominator, right?
Well, you have to find a common denominator, exactly, which means in this case it would be 15.
Right, okay.
Okay, and this is how many 15ths?
20/15.
And this is how many 15ths?
15. No, yeah, 15.
No, that's a 5.
12/15.
So how many total?
32/15.
Okay. That's how you add fractions. You can see that multiplying fractions is far easier. And in fact, dividing fractions is far easier because when you divide fractions, that's really a multiplication problem.
Right, because you do same switch flip.
Yeah, you flip the bottom and it turns into 4/3 times 5/4. Then you can cancel the 4's and you get 5/3. It's real easy. So multiplication and division are actually a lot easier than addition and subtraction.
Okay, thank you.
The other thing is get a good night's sleep. Do not stay up late cramming. What time's your test?
What time is the test? 8 a.m. 8 a.m.
All right. So you don't have a lot of wiggle room. Looking for one more trig question here. All right, 48.
Okay.
Fun. So it's always a good idea to draw these, especially when they give you a figure that doesn't have a lot of information on it. So if the tangent of A is x divided by y, let's start dimensioning this triangle. What dimensions can I put on there?
You can put the opposite over the adjacent.
Well, so what's the opposite?
That would be the straight side.
That's y. In other words, they told us that the tangent of A is x divided by y. So I can dimension that part of the triangle immediately. You see why?
Yeah.
Because tangent is opposite over adjacent. And now they say that what's the sine of A? Well, we need to know this side, right?
Right.
Look at their answers. What do you suppose that hypotenuse is based on the Pythagorean theorem? Just looking at their answers, what would your first guess be?
My first guess?
Yeah. 3 answers that have this real complicated expression in it. Square root of x squared
My guess.
plus y squared. That's the Pythagorean theorem. In other words, the hypotenuse of a right triangle is always the square root of the sum of the sides squared.
Okay.
Okay, so you need to apply the Pythagorean theorem to get the hypotenuse. Now we have the entire triangle dimensioned. What's the sine of A?
X over x squared plus y squared.
X over the square root of x squared plus y squared. But yeah, so it's answer H.
Okay.
So you definitely need to know your Pythagorean theorem.
Okay.
In other words, c squared equals a squared plus b squared, which means c, the hypotenuse, is equal to the square root of a squared plus b squared. And that's what we're looking at here. That's what the hypotenuse was the square root of x squared plus y squared.
Okay.
All right. I guess you got to be good to go, huh? I can't keep you up too late because you need to get a good night's sleep.
Right.
All right. Skylar,
all right.
Good luck. Be relaxed. Have some food when you get up in the morning.
Okay.
Okay. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.